I want you to think with me for a moment about a job you either have now or have had in the past that you stayed with even though you didn't love it. And once you have it, I want you to think, why didn't you leave? If you didn't love it, why didn't you just quit? Why? Because that is an overly simplistic question with relationship to commitment. And that introduces my very favorite theory called the investment model. I'm going to do screen share so that you can see the model at work. This theory argues that our commitment is actually a combination of our satisfaction level, our quality of alternatives, and our investment in a relationship. And those combine to form our commitment that predict our relationship stability, also known as our stay-leave behavior. So this theory I find very practical and approachable and relatable to almost all of us who have been in a relationship and grappled with why we stay when we're not satisfied. For me, it was my college job. I had the job for about 6 years, and I was satisfied with it for maybe 3. So that means half of the time that I had that job, I was not satisfied. So why didn't I just quit? Because satisfaction is only part of the equation. And for me, I only had financial assistance through the job. I didn't qualify for financial aid, and I didn't have help from my parents. So I needed tuition assistance, which is what this job offered me. I had to be full-time, and I had to be a full-time student, and I had to put in 6 months of work after I had pursued my education. That was my investment. I was at the point where they were willing to pay for my education and paid for 2 degrees based on the fact that I worked for them and submitted the paperwork and passed my classes. So my investment was really good. Now my quality of alternatives and significant, my investment in the company and their investment in me was pretty great. My quality of alternatives was okay. I did apply and turn down other offers elsewhere based on the fact that I would have taken a pay cut, and at the time, working on degrees, having a mortgage, I just couldn't afford that, nor did I want to take a pay cut. So my quality of alternatives wasn't what I'd like it to be either. Those two combined for me to form my commitment to the company, which predicted that I stayed with them longer than I necessarily wanted to. So that's my personal experience and partly why I love this theory and why I feel like if you put it in organizational terms, in terms of our jobs, it makes a little bit more sense. But obviously, the theory is really designed to talk about interpersonal relationships. And my favorite study that applies this is called Using the Investment Model to Understand Battered Women's Commitment to Abusive Relationships by Rodigan and Axon in 2006. So they applied the theory to women who were in abusive relationships and didn't leave. This is something that we are all puzzled by, right? And I love how this theory is utilized to open our minds to this predicament that women are in. Obviously can be men, but mostly as women, so I'll refer to them as women. So in this case, the satisfaction level is low. We know that women that are not treated well in a relationship tend to be dissatisfied. So why don't they leave, right? That's what we always ask, and that's what we need to stop asking. Well, we need to ask in a different way. Not ask them why don't they leave, but find out why logistically they can't leave instead of satisfaction. So oftentimes it comes down to the quality of alternatives. What does their life look like after they leave? Do they have transportation to work? Do they have access to their own money? Do they have a place to stay? What about their kids if they have them? Do they have a life that is somewhat normal outside of this life that they've built for them? Also, the investment is usually significant in shared assets, in maybe a shared home, shared transportation in terms of who is going to control the vehicle. That element is often controlled by the husband in these cases, and that is partly what makes it difficult to leave. So these, again, play into the commitment to the relationship, and what we often see is stay behavior, unfortunately. So what we need to ask instead of why don't you leave, just get yourself out of the situation and being so frustrated when they don't, is we need to ask, what can I do to help? How can I bolster your quality of alternatives to help you leave this relationship that you're not satisfied with, that isn't working for you, that is not healthy, that is also possibly dangerous? What can I do? What we can often do, according to the authors, is we can help with transportation. We can provide assets, resources, vehicles, even in some cases, to get them the ability to take their kids to school, to get to work, and be able to afford their lives outside of this relationship. Also, we can give them a place to stay so that they have a place to exit. We can support shelters that help these women and their families and give them access to resources that they greatly need. So I love this theory because, again, it opens our eyes to the levels that go into commitment and take us away from thinking in a way that is somewhat closed-minded, that relationships, once they become dissatisfying, can just simply be left. And that, again, is not the case for these women. It's often not the case for us. So I love how that can help you understand this predicament, and also feel you can apply it to your own life. Hopefully you love it like I do, and understand just why you're not leaving a job or a relationship that you don't love anymore. So thanks for listening to my explanation of the investment model.